It's amazing how much peace of mind you as a leader have once you know the answer to that question.
So you have to solve those problems before you scale.
If you're putting together things just in an awkward fashion, then that's the kind of business you're going to end up getting.
Rascals, get ready for a great episode today. We're going to talk about hunting revenue patterns with my friend Rion Westfall, and you will not want to miss this. If you have ever thought of, gosh, why am I pulling the wrong lever in my business? Or if you're an operator, why am I not scaling with efficiency? What's happening to my profit? How do I stop losing money and customers? Friends, we're going to show you the simple way to fix that problem. So stay tuned. Hello, Rascals. Welcome back to another episode. And I am so excited to talk about hunting revenue patterns and 6 fixes that will help you anticipate potential problems before you even pull the trigger to run your sales, to run your marketing, to grow revenue. And of course, we have to maintain that profitability. I have guest Rion Westfall, and he is going to help us dig into scaling with profit, creating what I love this buzzword is, which is a revenue-driven culture. And what that means is accountability. It means strategy. It means keeping things simple so that you can scale without the chaos. Rion, welcome to the show.
Michelle, awesome. Wonderful to be here with you, and glad to be here with you and your people.
Yes, this is going to be such a wonderful episode. And I absolutely love talking about clearly how to make more money and not losing your profit along the way. And, I also find that a lot of small business owners, they try to do too much at once and they get confused by information. They don't have their strategies exactly ironed out, shooting from their hip, doing the best they can. And so when I saw you had a topic to discuss, which is 6 fixes to win and keep your customers, I just had to have you on the show so that we could talk about this and my audience can just do their best darn job to implement this and see the success in their business. But before we jump into the 6 fixes, tell us about you and your background and how you ended up here.
Oh, my background goes back. I'm actually a mechanical engineer and business. And so as I have developed that career, kind of my whole point that led me here to where we are right now is I decided, hey, I was going to write a book, right? I'd spent almost a couple decades working and I was going to write a book. It was always just I guess maybe a dream of mine. And as I sat down to write this book, one of the first things I said is, well, I need people and I need testimonials. And where do you get that? Well, I don't have that. I need to build that. So I actually started just reaching out to business owners. I said, hey, would you like to be interviewed for the book? And in the process, we ended up having wonderful conversations with multiple people. Some of them continued to be on clients, but to go through this own your revenue process, that's a process that I've developed. And doing so has just exposed me to multiple SMB owners, just of different types, different industries. All throughout, as a little bit of history, but behind myself, I traveled internationally. So I actually cut my teeth at Department of Defense, Raytheon Missile Systems. And then after that, went into EPCM, Engineering, Procurement, Construction Management. Did that because I speak both English and Spanish. It kind of opened up Central and South America. So I've done construction projects and designs and things down there. I later went to vice president of business development for an international firm and traveled the world. I worked in about 15 different countries doing audits and evaluations on facilities. So these facilities would say, hey, we got issues. We're not really sure where those issues are and the like. Why don't you come help us? And so I would go down, and sometimes it might be 4 days, sometimes it might be 4 weeks. And we would work with these facilities, doing audits, doing evaluations to see. And so that's what really led, I would say, after about a decade of doing that, that's what really got me on the topic of patterns. Because when I would do these audits, when I would do these evaluations, I would see things regardless, whether I was in Africa, whether I was in South America, whether I was in Asia, North America, Central, it really didn't matter the culture as far as the people goes or what language they spoke. patterns were patterns, and they were seen, visibly seen. If you know what you're looking for and you know how to build off of them, they can tell you so much more about your business and allow you to be much more profitable.
Okay, so I'm obsessed with the conversation around patterns. So I have this theory. I have this theory that strategists and people who can find patterns and fix patterns are the most valuable service providers that will ever exist. And AI can do as much as they want. But at the end of the day, I don't think anyone's going to replace what you can do or I can do when it comes into finding those patterns and helping people solve for it. I was even, where was I? I was reading an article the other day about how ChatGPT lost one of their top developers. And now there's all these errors because they went to Claude or something. So now there's these errors. And I've been using ChatGPT since it began. And I'm starting to notice that when I use my prompts that have been working forever, I will now get some errors back. And I know they're errors because I'm a professional chief revenue officer, so I know they're wrong. But if you're a small business owner and you may not know what output you just got was incorrect. And so let's talk a little bit about patterns. Can you give us an example of a pattern that you see across any culture, any type of business, maybe one of your favorite patterns to find and to solve for?
The very first one that I love solving for is understanding your own business. And I have one question. You do this year over year over year, and for multiple years, you usually you narrow those questions down. So the one question that I always ask, usually right up front, is what problem do you solve that no one else does? Because if you're in a business world and you don't understand the answer to that question or the implications that your business has on your client, your customer, whether it's a product, it doesn't matter, whether it's service, regardless of your industry, in networking, you always have that conversation. Someone comes up and the first question they ask, well, hey, what do you do? And that's really code for what problem can you solve for me that no one else can? And if you can't answer that, or if you can't lead, and that's not clear, I always use a phrase: clarity is power. And well, power for what? Power for action, right? It's good old Kevin O'Leary. You're familiar with who he is. He always uses this phrase: clarity is capital. Well, capital, revenue, whether it's investment, whether it's customers coming in, if you're clear behind what it is you do, then your business is going to have a foundation so that it can succeed. Most of the time, all those distractions that you were talking about, where you're doing multiple things and you're just distracted, it almost comes back to the root of not knowing with clarity the answer to that question. What problem do you solve that no one else does? And so that's what I found as far as the first problem that we find. And there are many we find after it, but that's usually where I always start first.
And I've actually found about 90+% of companies I've ever worked with don't know that answer very well.
You ask them that question and you get, well, here's bullet point 1, and here's bullet point 2 and 3 and 5 and 7 and 10. Well, that's nice. Those are things you do, but what problem do you solve? And you're absolutely right. So I've sat down for literally, I had one client, we probably went 3 hours just trying to gain clarity around that one answer, to find the words that answer it correctly and everything like that. And it's amazing how much clarity, how much peace of mind that you as an owner, as a leader, have once you know the answer to that question, and then you embed it to memory, your subconscious and everything else. I mean, there's just so much power that comes with it. You don't have to think about it anymore. And it becomes a lot easier to, frankly, say no to the things that you should be saying no to in business. And yeah, it's immense power.
Yeah, I will also add that it is really hard to market and sell something that you don't know the answer to that question to. And what happens is you end up just trying as many different paths as possible. You're scattered, you're distributed, you never go super deep in your very specific area of expertise. And it can be service or it can be product. This is not just a service conversation. And, it is so critical because I can't tell you how many times I've had people call me and be like, Michelle, I have a sales problem. And I'm like, oh, really? What's the sales problem? Can I listen to some calls? Let's jump into the data. I was like, oh, you do not have a sales problem. You have a positioning problem. Like, what the heck are you selling? Because nobody knows, including your sales reps, actually. So let's sit down and talk about this. So it's so interesting how, those original problems, those foundational problems, you can grow a little bit having those problems. And then you hit a barrier and you're like, why am I hitting this barrier? Why are my sales reps failing, for example? Why is my marketing costs? Why are they so expensive? Like my client acquisition costs are through the roof. Why? This is ridiculous. My competitors seem to be doing just fine. And I think this is such a powerful conversation. Are you seeing the same thing? How if that's not right, everything else is a domino effect to frustrations and restrictions and growth?
I wrote a newsletter here. I think it came out here just last month, and I was talking very much about this aspect of being able, being clear from your side. If you don't know those answers, you are broadcasting a form of chaos, right? To the owner. It's a form of chaos. You're kind of unsure what you can do, what you can't do, your abilities. And usually what happens is if you can't answer that question, then it's going to be very, very difficult to portray that you have an answer for them. And the newsletter was all about when you have that conversation with that new customer, with that new person, don't talk, right? Don't sit there and say, we do this and we do this and this is the price and here's my spec sheets and here's this. Just have a conversation and find out what their problem is. And if their problem fits within the problem that you solve, that's when you move forward. That's when you go forward. I've been on a number of phone calls and conversations, even with my own clients, where when I have that conversation around their problem and I feed into it, right? Start asking them a question. Hey, well, how is that affecting you? How much are you losing because of it? Is it time? Is it man? I mean, it always boils down to revenue, but it's in many different forms. And whether it's the time that your guys, hey, I got 50 people in my business and I bet they're losing about 2-3 hours a week each. Okay, well, that's 150 hours every week that is being lost. Okay, what does that equate to? All right, well, that's, $40,000 a month. Ooh, okay. So if we're sitting here talking about how we can solve that, then I'm going to be charging you, what is that worth to you? If I can help you solve a $40,000 a month problem, what is that worth to you? And usually that's where it makes it easy to negotiate. That's where it makes it easy because they're already telling you, in theory, what they are willing to pay, what the value is for them. And I've often got to the end saying, okay, we solve these problems and here's how you have more conversation. What is that worth to you? You put a price tag on it. I'm not going to give you a proposal. You put the price tag on it. And every time I've been able to do that, two things come out of it. One, I realize whether or not it's a person that I want to work with, because if they come in and they just lowball the whole thing, then they're not of the mindset that anything I bring to them is going to be of value. But if they come in with a reasonable number and you can look at it, and oftentimes I've been surprised because their number was higher than mine. And because of that allows me, okay, well, good. I can raise that. I can go forward. I can move forward with that to be able to help them solve those problems because this is the value that they have already placed on it. And thus we can move forward, creating value, creating results in a company. And so that's that's how I love just approaching, just be conversations. Business owners are business owners, just like anybody else.
Yes, they are. Okay, so I actually have to do the math here. If it's $40,000 per month that you find times 12, that's $480,000 a year that you could solve for, which I find extremely powerful because based on small business stats, that's more than most businesses even make. So, this can be really powerful. And I am known for using my calculator during sales calls. And I have a feeling maybe you would too.
If I could show you the dashboard that we just built, the one that I was talking to you about, the Own Your Revenue dashboard, which helps build that revenue culture. Right now, I've got the first 9 companies in there because we just launched it 2 months ago. We've got the first 9 companies in there. And out of those 9 companies, we have identified 158 patterns. And on those 158 patterns, the estimated revenue for those patterns is $64.5 million.
Oh my goodness gracious. So I have a question. Is it something that you could share your screen and show us anything redacted, or is it all client information?
I can probably share a couple of pieces.
All right. Now, everybody who's listening, audio only, if you want to check out and see what this looks like, jump on over to the Revenue Rascals YouTube channel and you'll be able to see it visually. If not, just turn on your listening ears and we will walk through this. Okay, Ryan, what are we looking at?
Well, what you're looking at here is my super admin view, but you can see here, I have an acronym that we go through, PEPSLM. So as we're hunting patterns, it's important. It's kind of like a library, right? You can have a whole bunch of books, but which ones are documentaries? Which one is the horror sci-fi? Which one is the fantasy? Which one is the romantic? So you want to kind of categorize your brain of these patterns. And so out of these 158 patterns, it's interesting for me to be able to see that 35 or 22% of those revolve around strategy. This PEPSLM is an acronym. It stands for, as you can see here a little bit below, people, equipment, process, strategy, leadership, inventory, money. And as we do this, we can see that all these companies, these 9 companies that we've broken down these things, and we have construction, fintech, financial services, manufacturing, professional, technology, these different services, you can see where the bulk of these revenue patterns are actually falling. And it's very interesting to me to see out of those $64.5 million, I can see collectively amongst these 9 companies, hey, these are the areas where companies in general are struggling. I can also come through here and I can tell you from a construction perspective, you see how a lot of that just changed? Right now, construction, hey, of course, I would naturally think that they have people issues, right? So the construction industry, out of the companies that are in here and the 48 patterns that we've identified just in the construction industry, there's $7.6 million between the companies that I have that are in my construction area. So as we're building this is the overall view, but each individual company will actually be able to see these. So as we go on this hunt for patterns, and I love very poignant questions. I mean, no fluff. Hey, we're going to get into it. We're going to ask the real nuts, and it might be a little uncomfortable, but that uncomfortable answering deep level questions is what really brings to light as I mentioned, what levers do we need to actually pull that are going to get us a 2x growth, a 3x growth, a 4x growth with, at the same time, our margins.
Okay. So can I stop you, please? Because this is really exciting. And I got to double click on something here. So first of all, small businesses struggle so hard to get accurate benchmark data. So what I'm seeing that you're creating here is something that enterprise level companies can always find because there's so much more public information. It's easier. But for the smaller company that's trying to grow, that's trying to scale, that has not seen themselves benchmark against another construction company, for example, that in itself, in my opinion, is incredibly invaluable for a few reasons. One would be, first of all, now you know where you're going, right? You're like, okay, if everyone's struggling with the same people problem in my industry, that's where I know I need to solve for. But also, man, does it feel good to know that I'm not the only one in construction struggling with people. So there is like a bit of a hug kind of like atmosphere going on here, like, okay, comfort, right? I think this is incredible. I am so happy that you are serving these small businesses in a way where they can benchmark and clearly grow their revenue. We talked a little bit in the before we jumped on here about who's the best person for this platform. So maybe if we stop sharing right now, we can jump into that because this is really powerful. So can we talk a little bit about franchises? Because that was something we were talking about before we jumped onto the show here. And just to give some context here for everybody listening, is franchises. If you're not a franchise owner and you're considering this, or you are a franchise owner, most franchisors, that is their first business that they're owning. And the reason why is because most franchisees, ORs, offer a business quota in a box, right? Here's your product, here's the plan, here's the strategy, here's all the things. But unfortunately, not every franchise supports you once you open the doors, right? They say they do, but they don't really. So there you are with your very first business and you're ready to rock and roll, and sales, marketing, strategy, you're kind of left out there to flounder a little bit. And so I find this really powerful, Rion, that you are that one of the categories that you can really support is the franchisee owners. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. This, as I work, I typically work, and I've started this, I serve anywhere from, the solopreneur up to probably about 200 personnel company, 150 to 200 personnel. Usually once you get beyond that, you're large corporate and those kinds of things. But this franchise space is definitely an interesting space. I mean, franchise it's just a small business on steroids, frankly. And you're just repeating it over and over. And as you learn patterns, hint, hint, as you learn those patterns, each Z that you launch just strengthens the ZOR or the franchisor. So, but you're absolutely right. Usually there's segments that are helped out. If you go into the restaurant business, hey, we've got the layout of the restaurant and how the kitchen should look to optimize this or that. I mean, we see that all the time. But if you're not doing that, there's so many other ones where, yeah, you get our name, you maybe get some back end office system or something like that to support you. But outside of that, you have to go choose the location. You have to go figure out how it's lined out. You got to figure out the sales and the marketing. You got to figure out how to bring clients in. There's so much work that still has to be done on the individual. And finding patterns is, time is our kryptonite in business. It really is. Time is either working against you or it's working for you. And how you're acting in business, how you're acting literally every day intentionally is going to determine whether or not it's working for you or against you. And most businesses, I find we're just at the grind, 40, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. I had one guy, he's literally the owner, and this is a $40 million company, by the way. The owner is working 75 hours every week on average. His general manager, I got a note here last month, he sent me, he says, I've put in 356 or 52 hours this month. And I mean, I had to go back to the calculator and I'd say, how many hours are in a month, right? I mean, like, what do you mean? And like, yeah, he's working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm just like, this is unsustainable. Like, you can't do this and still have, in his case, he's got a wife and he's got 2 kids and he's still trying to do things. And so finding, why is that? And you're a 25-year-old company, you're doing $40 million a year. Why are you still doing this? Now, not everybody's in that situation. Some people are, hey, I'm just trying to get to my first million. Or maybe I've got to I've got 1-2 million. I'm trying to get to 5. I'm trying to get to 10. I would like to see that. The issues or the problems with having that mentality without the clarity of how to get there is, yeah, you might get there. You're going to pour more gasoline on that flame. That flame's going to go up. So every chaos that you have in your business, and I determine chaos by things that are distracting, that are removing you, that are keeping you from your margins, bad communications internally, or what, there's so many forms of that are hurting your revenue. The moment you start throwing gasoline on that fire, yeah, it might be a bigger fire, but all of the chaos goes up as well. And my experience usually is, if you're a $5 million company and that chaos is keeping you at a 5% margin, 7% margin. If you try and scale 5 million to 10 million, that same chaos is actually going to balloon up, and your 5% is going to turn to 4 or 3 or 2. And you're just going to experience that. So if you haven't found a way, a system, an ability to actually come in and identify and solve for the quote chaos in your business, then when you go to scale, you're just going to wish, man, I like those days when I was a smaller company. It was less work, I made more profit, and I'd rather be a smaller company, but now I'm this bigger company. So you're just magnifying your headaches at that point in time.
Oh my, I mean, I feel like I'm experiencing a mirror situation right now. Like you're in my head, like coming out of your mouth. I'm like, yes, yes, yes. I mean, we've seen it. Like we've both seen it so much. And fire causes more chaos, and the bigger the fire, the harder it is to put out. Right? Like just in real life analogy here. So you have to solve those problems before you scale or before you want to grow. Like it's not something, when you get to that certain level, it's not something you can fix as you go. There's a lot of things you can fix as you go in the very beginning, but once you're ready to go and scale, you better have your margins ready to go, your strategy, and to be able to make it happen. I'm loving this conversation. So let's talk about the original thing that we were going to talk about, because I got so excited about the other stuff. So I moved on, but we're coming back. Okay.
That's okay. We can move on. We can go back. We can go wherever it takes us.
God. I love it. I get so, I purposely designed this podcast to have flexibility, and I purposely don't do pre-interviews. I purposely leave space, because I think that it is so much more enjoyable when you just ask great questions and you see where it goes. And for the listener and for the people who are talking for an hour, right?
All right, rascals, let me ask you this. How much money have you wasted replacing shoes, sneakers, or even bags that could have lasted way longer if only you'd been taken better care of them? I know for me, running from meetings to kids' activities, life gets messy fast. And that's why I always have Jason Mark Quick Wipes on hand. Jason Mark is trusted care to help you get the most out of what you wear. They're not just about cleaning. They're about protecting what you love while protecting the planet. Their wipes are now 100% plant-based and plastic-free, made from renewable lyocell fibers. They're individually wrapped so you can toss them in your bag, your car, or like me, your kids' backpacks. And it's not just convenience. Jason Mark is part of the worldwide B Corp movement, meeting the highest standards for social and environmental impact. They're EPA Safer Choice certified, so the formulas are safe for your family. And their products are USDA bio-based and certified biodegradable. That means no harmful junk like PFAS or VOCs. Just high performance care that keeps your stuff looking fresh while doing right by the planet. Personally, as a busy mom and entrepreneur, Quick Wipes are my favorite. They've saved my sneakers from coffee spills, playground dust, you name it. One wipe and I'm ready to walk into my next meeting looking sharp. So here's the deal. Go to jasonmark.com and use promo code RevenueRascals at checkout for 25% off your order. One time per customer. Again, that's jasonmark.com, code RevenueRascals. And remember, this podcast is free thanks to sponsors like Jason Mark. I'm ungating sales strategies people pay me six figures for. So go support them, grab your Quick Wipes or your favorite product, and keep your kicks looking fresh.
All right, Ryan, here we go. 6 fixes to win and keep your customers. And you were saying that it boils down to understanding the customer roadmap and what problem you solve that no one else does, which we talked about a little bit in the beginning. So let's go ahead and break them down one by one. And our first one is, how does the customer find or initially interact with you? So tell us how that is important and how it goes into this model.
So a little bit of background as to why these 6 are important. Again, having traveled into 15 countries and done all of these audits and evaluations, I've broken these down to these final 6. And I refer to it as the customer roadmap. And there's other people that call it very similars and things like that, but it really is that. When you think of yourself, take the last road trip that you took, right? Hey, we've all got these smartphones, and as we map it out, hey, it's going to take me 2 hours. It's going to take me 10 hours, depending on wherever you're going. And you're going to realize, oh, there's this little section with red, right? And the map says, well, go around it. Maybe it's construction. Maybe it's an accident. So we're all used to taking these journeys, these trips. But very similarly, our customers, our clients are taking a trip with us when they hire us to do business. And what we want to make sure we're doing is, in essence, how are we making that road as smooth as possible? Instead of a dirt road, instead of a 4-wheel drive road, or one that's full of construction, that's full of accidents and detours, dead ends, that is going to make you turn around and want to go the other way or just not travel that route indefinitely. We're trying to make sure that they're hitting their, I call it the 6 mini destinations to complete your journey. And that very first one is, how does the customer find or initially interact with you? Usually when I do these audits, we'll do a whiteboard session. And I've got a way that we do it all digitally now, and it's all saved digitally. But in the past, before AI and these types of tools, we used to have these whiteboards that, floor to ceiling, and we'd had red and blues and greens and blacks and purple markers all over the place. But this very first one, how does the customer find or initially interact with you? Sometimes it's social media. Sometimes it's outreach. Sometimes it's referrals. Sometimes it's, whatever it is that your business uses to reach out to individuals to find and initially interact. You have to understand what those are. And then at the same time, you mentioned accountability. Well, who's accountable for that outreach? Who's accountable for the referral program? Who's accountable for attending the events or the networking sections that we do that get us to people? If you don't have that identified, so we're in essence developing a flow chart, if you're familiar with flow charts. But that roadmap, identify who or what it is, what ways does the customer find and initially interact with you, and be very clear about it. And what it allows you to do at a future time is to be able to go back and analyze the effectiveness and the efficiencies of each one of those, but at least start here. Start by putting that roadmap together as to, these are the methods, these are the ways, and as well, or there might be some future ways that you're anticipating. You can also highlight those too. But that's definitely the first place that I always start is, how are they finding and how are they initially interacting with you?
Yeah, it's so critical to also stay really focused there, because if you diversify too much and scatter too much, unless you're a very, very large company, you end up really not winning with these strategies. So when people come to me, and you probably have a similar opinion, it's like, okay, I want to do these 12 things to find clients. And you're like, really? Like, can we just pick a couple so we could do a good job at those? Like, let's just double down and focus. And I feel like that's a really important conversation to have. And to your point, it's like, you don't have to be married to them for the rest of your life, of these acquisition strategies. Like, test them, see which ones perform the best, depending on what type of company you are. It's also like, if you're still doing founder-led sales at some point, like, do you like the ways that you're finding these people? Because you're going to have to be really, really involved, and building a client acquisition model that you hate executing on is basically a death sentence before you even get to scaling.
Yep. And we've always been there. I mean, there's certain things I hate doing, so I just don't do them. I don't enjoy them, so don't.
100%. Like, I much rather be in person, shaking hands, talking to people, doing all the things. But I started my business just a year before COVID. So when COVID hit, that wasn't really like an option. So I just went all in on social media. And that worked great, like fantastic. 1,000 businesses served since I've started. But I still enjoy just getting out there and shaking hands. And I've also noticed that it collapses the sales cycle too. So if I meet you in person and then you go online to make sure I'm real, you're like, oh, she's real. But I've already shook your hand. So when we talk, it's such a faster sales cycle. So I guess my message to everyone, and I'm curious if you probably would agree, is make sure that whatever you choose at stage one, you want to do.
Yeah, agreed 100%. If there's no passion behind it, now, some of these things, I've had owners just say, I don't want to do anything in the front. I like the fulfillment because I built my business. I'm an HVAC technician, right? And I own an HVAC company. Well, I really like doing the work, but that business development side and the sales side, like I leave me out of it. I'm gonna hire somebody else for that. It's okay to say that. It needs to be done. It's a part of the road. It's a part of the journey that has to happen. But kind of step two that we go through is, all right, who is responsible for each action? And if you're not the one responsible, then no problem. You're actually probably maybe a little bit further ahead because you're doing something or you're not doing something that you don't want to do. And if you're the owner, then that's better because you're building a team to do it. You're delegating that authority and ability.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's the dream of a lot of owner operators are like, okay, can somebody please just take the sales off my hands? Oh my gosh. Okay. So then we have fix number 2. How does the customer decide to hire you or not?
Oh, this one, initial interaction, initial find, that's one thing. Okay, now that we've established connection and that there's a desire, a need, how do we go about, how does the customer, so it's framed this way because it's very specific. How does the customer decide to hire? You're not deciding to have them as a client, even though that's an important thing. But this aspect of it is, how is the customer deciding to hire? They may have 3 other bids. They have, whatever it is, it might be time, right? I've seen so many, especially in construction and manufacturing facilities. Well, I got the RFP. Sure, I'll get you a proposal. 2.5 weeks go by and the proposal's still not out. It's still not done. Well, we're waiting on numbers from the vendor, from the supplier, whatever it is that you're waiting on. Meanwhile, another company, they got their ducks in a row and they shot that proposal out, 48 hours later. So all of a sudden I'm sitting, the customer's sitting on that proposal and, oh, well, hey, I've got this proposal. We're still waiting for that. Okay, we're just going to hire these guys, right? So how they decide to hire usually has a lot. We talked about speed, right? In this day and age, especially with AI, we all want it. We all want it yesterday. And so we're no different. When we want a quote from somebody, we want it yesterday. So how is your process facilitating the decision, that shift in the mind of the customer to say, I'm going to hire them. I want them and I want them now. So looking at your own process, hey, how are we facilitating that? Is it bumpy? Is it smooth? Oh yeah, we get them within 48 hours. Okay, great. So definitely looking at it from that side helps the company, helps you understand and be more clear as to how that process is happening.
Yeah. And I'll add to that. I always say that if your sales experience wasn't great, your experience with the company is not going to be great. The sales process 100% reflects the operations, and I have never been proven wrong.
I agreed. I would agree with that one.
Yep. So this is a really important one for everybody to listen. Make it easy for people to buy from you. Pretty please. Okay. All right. Number 3, how does the customer become a customer?
This is where it gets really interesting because now that they've decided to hire, they're effectively, hey, we're jumping in your vehicle. But the last thing you want to do is, if you're going to jump in somebody else's vehicle and it's a hot day, if you go down to turn on that AC and the AC ain't working, or, the other way around, it's really cold and the heat's not working and you don't have the heater seat or whatever it is, there's a comfort feel. And this is, okay, you've passed the first impression phase. Now we're on the first date phase using that analogy. Here we are. We're together now. We've decided to do this. How is your process? Again, speed, timeliness, especially most companies that were probably listening to this are someone other than, hey, buy your widget on Amazon. And all of a sudden they fill in their email and their name. There's the credit card. There's the $50 charge and it's done. We're talking about, okay, we have tens of thousands of dollars, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars in our contracts. This is going to take a little bit of time, a little bit of process. And how you have that happen, how you have that orientation, if you will, how you bring them in, what are the portals that we need to create, what are the insurance requirements, all of those checklists. How long is this going to take? Hey, we have to establish a project manager. We've got to bring in an individual. Whatever the situation is, having and understanding how this process works to where the real production can begin, you want this as streamlined as possible.
Yeah. One thing when I'm helping building sales teams, I work with a lot of founders that don't want to sell for themselves anymore. So I help them build their first sales team. And, the first question I ask is, if I get you a high performing sales team, can you fulfill?
Can you fulfill?
And if you can't, you're not ready, friend, and we need to get you ready. So that's how this one resonates for me, is you have to make it work when you scale from a fulfillment standpoint.
And this is where a lot of the tool, especially nowadays, a lot of the tools, AI is helping in all formats, right? But especially here, that whole process, I was literally, this was last week, I was on with a financial advisor and he said, yeah, I've got this stack of papers and I do this and this. And I'm just like, you're still doing these things manually, highlighting. Like I still get paper. I still use paper. It helps me think differently and I advocate for it. But there's certain things that should be processed and proven to where, oh, they've already decided to hire. Okay, great. There should be an automation to this to where they can be done in minutes or, an hour or whatever it is. But definitely having, like you said, having it ready.
Having it ready is so important. So number 3 was a RevOps application of how does a customer become a customer? And then we move into 4, which is what I was just, inclining on, is how does the customer's purchase get fulfilled? So now we're on clearly the operational side of the business. And depending on how complicated your business is, this can also be complicated. And, speaking to let's take the construction companies, for example, because I like that one. If they sell a commercial contract that's millions and millions of dollars, and now they have to put together their team, they have to put together the timelines, fulfillment, all of this, that at scale is way more complicated than somebody doing a few one-off projects. So let's talk about how does the customer's purchase get fulfilled? And specifically for this one, if you could talk a little bit about some of the adjustments you typically have to make at this point when you're hitting the scale button.
Adjustments to scale.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if you were to go to a food restaurant, pick your favorite burger joint. Right.
Oh, whether mine is In-N-Out Burger.
In-N-Out, In-N-Out has, I love watching them smash tomatoes. Not tomatoes, potatoes, right? I love seeing the guy just whacking away on that lever. It's just kind of cool, but they have a system. They have a process as to how to make your burger and how to make your fries. And you see it repeated over and over and over and over again. Well, guess what? I work DOD, Department of Defense. You go through and you want to build a fighter pilot jet, right? Extremely high tech, millions of dollars, a lot different than a burger, but the fact or the work that is done to build it is no different. It just requires a process. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And we refer to these as SOPs, standard operating procedures. And fulfillment of a purchase, the efficiency of that revolves around SOPs completely. A company that has, I always tell my clients this. I say, if it's not written down, it's a liability. If it is written down, it's an asset. And learning, you talk to anybody, yeah, I'll take asset over liability. Well, will you? Will you actually write down the process? You've got Billy in there. You've got Susan in there. You've got John in there. One pattern I would always see in most businesses is when they have a new hire, they will tell that new hire, hey, go follow Joe around for the next 2 weeks. Joe will tell you all the things that you need to know. Why? Because Joe's been here for 15 years. You've heard that. You've seen that. You know that.
Yes,
You've probably done it. I mean, I'll raise my hand. I've done that before. Hey, just go follow it. He's a good employee. Just follow him. Guess what they're learning? All of their habits. They're learning all of their habits. So if it's not written down, they don't have it. They're resolved to memory. Their resolution is in the ability for Joe to perform or how he did it that one day. Whatever the case is, you don't have something that you can rely on. You don't have an asset. You have a liability in the fact that people are working and they're doing things just like ants. They're going to go around and be busy. But using that analogy, heck, we can go run with the ants, right? The ants lay I forget what it is. There's a scent, right? And they follow that line. Very similarly, if we don't lay that scent down for our people, whether it's ant number 1, ant number 2, ant number 55, it doesn't matter. If that SOP is not in place, it's not written, it's not an asset, it's a liability, and you're going to feel the chaos. Chaos always has consequences. And so fulfillment revolves, in my opinion, around the world of SOPs.
It sure does. And, an example that's not business related, but I think would be really profound right now is I ride horses. I'm Western pleasure. I like all the fun stuff. I like little barrels. I like trails. I'm going to learn mounted shooting this summer. It's really, really fun for me. However, if you learn from the wrong person who didn't document all of the things, your is flying off that horse, 1. 2 is you're going to do more damage to your horse than good. And 3 is you're going to stop having fun. 4, you're just going to get beyond not having fun, you're going to get horribly frustrated. So for me, it's funny because the equestrian world is very much so what you said is, oh, you go talk to Alex. Oh, Bob knows the answer to that. And I'm over here as a business builder having an anxiety attack. I'm like, no, guys, we need to document the right way to do these things. And that's how I learn. So I find myself coming home and making my own mini guides so I don't forget stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know, maybe I'm addicted to this stuff, but it's so important.
Well, you said that's how I learn. Okay. Making mistakes is not a bad thing. Having points of failure where you fall down, getting bucked off a horse. I grew up on a small ranch myself. Getting bucked off a horse. I remember the first time I got bucked off. I didn't want to get back on. Like there was just, but then there was an edge of me that said, I want to get back on because I want to ride the horse, but that hurt. I don't want to have that happen again. Right. It's okay to have that fear. In fact, I recommend it. If there's a little subconscious fear that's saying, I don't want that to happen again, that's motivation. That's fuel for change. And those little bitty changes that you can create in your company for whatever purpose it is, whether it's office related, whether it's field related, whether it's sales related, whether it's ownership related on your tax side, whatever it is, you can make those micro adjustments little by little and document them, turn them into the SOP so that things are, you're going to avoid that chaos, that failure. Like you said, if I fell again and again and again, how am I going to learn from it? The SOP is the learning from the failure.
Oh, 100%. And SOPs used to take forever and a day. They were so annoying. And now with AI and all the tech tools that are out there, it is so easy. So anybody listening right now that feels like, wow, this is overwhelming, I don't want to do it. Maybe I'll deal with the liability over the asset. Like, just have a come to Jesus moment, everybody. It just takes you a couple minutes. Once you know how to do it, let technology support you.
100%. You can speak it into the microphone and it'll spit it out to you. You just provide a little template. It's a lot easier nowadays.
It's a lot easier. Okay, so we have 2 more fixes. Number 5 is, how does the customer's purchase get delivered?
Yeah, this one is different than fulfillment. Depending on who you are, if we're talking about a small little widget that someone's making that's $10, you can maybe argue that they're the same. But at some point in time, you have a handover. You have a sign off with a customer. At that point, you know, hey, here am I. Here's the product. Here's the service. I am letting you know that we are now complete. We are finished. There's an element of exchange where the customer now feels like, hey, satisfaction, right? I'm now receiving. Here's the keys to the car. We've washed it. We've cleaned it up. We've polished it. We vacuumed it. We even put air fresheners in it, right? Put the polish around the tires so it's all ready to go for you. When you receive that kind of a treatment, it's felt, right? It's not so much just seen and heard, but it's felt. So delivery is absolutely a critical step in my mind. If you are in construction, oh yeah, hey, we're done. Well, did you leave a bunch of garbage at the construction site? I mean, it's just those little things that make a huge difference, which will lead us right to that number 6. But yeah, fulfillment is definitely different than, how did I deliver this? How did it go? Did it go out with a red bow that was tied properly on it? Whatever the case is, making sure that the delivery aspect is felt by the customer.
Yeah, I would call this the delight stage. That's my way of working around it. All right, so we have number 6. How does the customer help with others and come back for more?
If you've done your job in the first 5 and you've delivered the delight, like you said, then that individual should have no problem in, well, hey, how's the review? How's the comment? How's the testimonial? But so many times we get done with the project, we're just rushing to, hey, what's the next project? Or, hey, I've got another client. Let me go over here and do this. We fail to actually think, hey, this is of value to me. This is of high value to me because I now have a delighted customer who's received the end product and they're happy. Great. I'm going to capture that moment, whether it's a picture, whether it's a video testimonial, audio testimonial, written testimonial, whatever it is, they're in a delighted stage. That's the best time to be with somebody, is when they're just delighted. So, hey, capture that and rein that in. So helping with others, that's how one, if you don't get that, they can't help you with others. And then of course, them coming back for more, right? Depending on your business, you might have repeat customers. You might be a one-off, but most businesses are a form of repeat customers. So how do we get them to come back for more? What is our follow-up like? How do we stay engaged with them? Did we capture the emails and the phone numbers so that we can send them the newsletters, the gifts that we send out, the open house events, whatever it is that we're doing in whatever business we're in? How is it that we're nurturing them to come back to us the next time that they need a service or a product like ours?
Yeah, and I'll say, any business that's not designed to have repeat customers, I don't want to work with that business. That is such a difficult thing to be consistently successful with. It's like, it is such a hard business. So if anybody's listening to this right now and you're starting a business or thinking of scaling, please, please, please make it a repeat business model. Thank you. And please. One thing, we had a realtor when we lived in California. Our realtor did this really smart thing that I'm going to end this on. And they they hosted Christmas photo shoots, like mini shoots for all of their customers every single year. So, you know what, like, I mean, that's always like a thing that's a bit of a pain for especially moms who are probably planning it, is like, let's find the photographer, find the location, pick the date. Now this is an extra expense, like right during the holiday season. It totally stinks. Nobody wants to do it. You've got dad pissed that you're dressing your kids to match him. It's always this thing, right? And so they found this great way of doing this where it's like every customer that's ever bought or sold a house with them, they get their Christmas shoot taken care of for like the rest of their lives, which is to me incredibly powerful. Now they're not full sessions. You get like, 5 shots and then, but you have your Christmas photo, like you're done, you're good. Right. And the other part of this is they always said, and if you have somebody who's looking for a shoot, like we have a few spots open for referrals, basically like you can bring a friend. So what does that do? That introduces them to the realtor clearly in this really high value manner. And so that's just one example that I think is so powerful, and there's so many of them. But what you do to keep that person in your ecosystem, appreciating, referring, is so incredibly important.
And that's why this customer roadmap is absolutely critical for you to understand how your body is put together, how your business body. If you don't know that this arm and this hand, just think of it as different parts. Like if you're putting your hand down on the bottom of the leg and the leg is attached to the side of the neck, or if you're putting together things just in an awkward fashion, then that's the kind of business you're going to end up getting. But if you know where things go fundamentally, functionally, it allows you a lot more, as we were talking about clarity, allows you to understand, all right, how am I going to address this concept? Like you said, the return. You know that when they were thinking about it, that was intentional. Stuff like that just doesn't happen by accident. And so if you're not being intentional in your business, that's just another form of chaos that is robbing your margin, that is robbing potential future opportunity and revenue, top line and bottom line. And so being intentional is a character trait that is required by the owner. I mean, that's his or her responsibility to the business, is being very intentional with how I'm laying these things out. And so if you've never done that exercise, if you've never gone through and actually done a proper flow chart of how a customer roadmap should look, then absolutely, that's when you should probably seek some counsel to say, hey, I'm going to now do this. And every time I do this, it's a wonderful exercise. And there's so many light bulbs that come on with the companies. Well, I didn't think of this and I didn't think of that. And I did, well, how am I going to, it's a wonderful exercise to do and is useful for any business at any phase, whether you've been around for 6 months, whether you've been around for 6 years or 16 years. I highly, highly recommend it as an exercise.
Yeah. And that brings us to your special offer for my audience, which I'm really excited to share with everyone. Okay, rascals, pay attention, because I asked Rion to do something for everybody who's listening and he agreed. So yay, I guess I'm still good at selling. What he is doing is offering a complimentary session, an advanced audit, so that you can see what patterns you're missing so that you can fix them and move forward. So this is a real high value offer for everybody listening right now. Rion, how should my listeners get a hold of you for this opportunity?
You're going to have the link here on your stuff, but it's also on my website, my calendar. It's the easiest, simplest way. Go on, pick a time. I can't make it any simpler than that. Go on, pick a time, and that's how we do it here.
Okay. And then everyone, make sure when you do speak with him that you say that you learned from the Revenue Rascals podcast about Rion, so that it stays complimentary. And I'm so excited about this. Now, my last question, which is my favorite question I ask everybody. Rion, what is the most rascal thing you've ever done in business?
The most rascal thing, I think I'm doing it right now at the moment.
Well, we caught you at a good time then.
Yes. Along with the development of this app that is turning into a micro SaaS, I've actually embarked here just these last few weeks, last month or so, in formulating my own brain via AI. So instead of a chat GPT and using standard internet, I've actually taken the last 500 plus interviews and things that I've had, my sessions with my clients. I'm taking all of that information and I'm loading all of those words, all of those comments, all of my teachings into this bot so that I can use that as a tool, 24/7 tool, to help individuals at any point in time. So if they can't get a hold of me, they'll be able to ask a question. So from a technology standpoint, like you were saying, with some of the changes of how other big companies are doing things, well, in this case, nothing's going to change here because it's my own, right? It's my own brain. It's my own teachings. It's my own comments. It's my own way and view of doing things. And it's a smaller library, obviously, but it's a very much more niche specific library to the problem that I'm personally helping businesses solve. So I would say that's the most biggest rascal thing that have done and am doing at the current moment.
I absolutely love it. It's called Rybot, right?
It's good. That's what I'm calling it now. And, I've realized if you're of a certain generation, you realize that we did work before AI existed. we did a lot of good, healthy work before AI existed. But the thing is, for anyone who wasn't born into AI, that is a skill that has to be learned, right? How do I work with AI? And I'm not talking just, hey, go on to ChatGPT and make a prompt. I'm actually like, yeah, how do you build a brain? How do you build the automation, ADD, automate, delegate, delete? How do I do that functionally for my ecosystem? Because right now, as of last week, I can tell you, I can put in this conversation right now, and it'll spit out 3 newsletters for me. And I don't have to touch anything. It takes my learnings, my teachings, and everything from this very conversation I'm having, and I'll have 3 newsletters to be able to post and share and enhance the outreach and the ability. Again, those 6 points that we were talking about, right? How are you doing those? So, guys, I'm even at the point now where I'm getting ready to start offering that same service to my clients that want to upskill their own game. So that's the most rascal thing I'm doing.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, I am so glad we were able to have you on the show. It's been a wonderful conversation. Is there anything that you want to say to the audience before we hit the stop button?
Before we hit the stop button, just learn how to hunt the patterns. And once you do it, once you start formulating your mind to that, you will start developing a revenue mindset, revenue first mindset, a revenue culture. And then once you start helping your people do it, and you start it will naturally create that revenue culture and accountability within your own business. And you will find you'll find your people doing things that they didn't even know they were capable of. So I highly, highly recommend being able to focus clearly on hunting of patterns and helping your people hunt for patterns.
Love it. Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Rion, for being on the show. And everybody, stay rascal.
Independence isn't just about where you go. It's about how well you live when you get there. That's why I am genuinely excited about Indie Stove, because it completely changes what outdoor and off-grid cooking looks like. Indie Stove is an ultra portable, collapsible stove that fits basically anywhere, but performs like a real kitchen tool. It heats up in minutes, holds up in wind, rain, and rugged terrain, and works with multiple fuel sources, propane, butane, or wood pellets. So you're never limited by where you are and what's available.
But here's where it gets fun. This isn't just about boiling water. With Indie Stove's modular accessories, you can actually cook. The workspace stack gives you sturdy side sleeves, so your cookware, ingredients, and tools are right there when you need them most. No balancing acts, no chaos. The skewer stack lets you grill kebabs, vegetables, or skewered meals evenly with non-sag skewers designed for real heat control. And yes, people are baking chocolate chip cookies off the grid. Fresh cookies in the middle of nowhere. That is not survival, that's luxury. Indie Stove is built for people who want freedom without giving up quality. Real meals, real control, real independence. Whether you're camping, overlanding, prepping for emergencies, or just choosing a life that isn't tied to outlets and crowded kitchens. And because you're a Revenue Rascals listener, you get something extra. Use code Revenue Rascals at checkout and you'll receive a free workspace stack with your purchase of a stove, valued at $120. That's Revenue Rascals at indiestove.com. Because independence should taste incredible.
Thanks for listening to Revenue Rascals, where we turn bold ideas into predictable revenue and prove that breaking the rules can still build empires. If you love what you heard, do me a favor. Tap the links in the show notes to support our sponsors. They're the ones keeping this show free so I can keep ungating the six-figure strategies that help you scale faster, lead smarter, and take more freedom home with you. And hey, if you think you'd make an incredible guest or know someone who's built something worth studying, email me at hello@michelleterpstra.com. And until next time, stay sharp, stay bold, and stay just a little bit rascal.